A pleasure to meet all at last. Welcome back to films I'm willing to talk about again. So for this instance, I'm going to be focusing on the sequels to Cars, a 2006 Pixar film which certainly overshadowed a majority of brand new CG films that had all come out throughout 2006. And I could go into detail on all of those films because I remember seeing some of them in theaters and some not in theaters. But any way you look at it, Cars was definitely the 2006 CG film that everybody was more than looking forward to see. And it sure had left lots of lasting impressions on people and a ton of memories for all to remember. But now we're going to focus on the sequel that came out a mere 5 years after the success of Cars, Cars 2. Unlike with the first one, it's not about Lightning McQueen going from bad guy to good guy. This is instead going to be about Mater, or as you might remember, Tow Mater without the toe, voiced by Larry the Cable Guy once again, as Owen Wilson still voices Lightning McQueen just as well. So 5-year difference, not so much. But in terms of how the plot goes, it's much different. This in fact takes place worldwide, as after all, in spite of the events that happened after Lightning McQueen left Radiator Springs to go to California, and with a bunch of Radiator Springs residents, including Doc Hudson himself, becoming his new crew chief and pit crew entirely. There actually weren't that many things relative to Radiator Springs. In fact, the beginning of the movie doesn't entirely apply that much, but it is basically just a prologue that shows us what events are to come. This in fact entails to some characters we've never seen before, all fighting it out on a stealth mission and pro-combat. They're apparently looking for some secret stuff, and once they obtain it, they make their escape into the water. But once we get the cuts on Lightning and Mater, it's not exactly what one would have imagined. I guess one could say that some time has passed since the events of Radiator Springs had come and gone, and Lightning McQueen is now back on track with his racing career. This time he's sought after victory in the World Grand Prix. Unlike with the first movie as well, we don't really get much of Chick Hicks or Strip Weathers. But what we do have instead is a Formula One car from Italy named Francesco Bernoulli. And he is, believe it or not, played by John Turturro. You might remember when he was in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, for example, or even Robert Pattinson's The Batman, a movie that I had talked about. Yep, this is the same guy that portrayed the one and only Mr. Falcone. In any case, though, Turturro did this long before Robert Pattinson's The Batman even came out in theaters. Anyways, though, the World Grand Prix does take place in various spots around the world, including Italy. But there's also Japan and even England. And with all the events that transpire, all the things that happen in between races, all the things that Mater and Lightning themselves end up doing, talking to other racers, getting some wasabi thinking that it's ice cream, oh boy, and even having this funny anime moment, and even some special cleanup sessions, if you know what I mean. There's not exactly that much I could put around to this whole thing. Probably the most interesting thing, though, about this movie is the fact that there's a covert spy operation. Yep. That prologue definitely didn't lie about the spy part of the film. Yeah, because this wasn't just about racing. This was also a race against time. Yeah. It's a bit uncalled for. But I guess we'll just give it the pass, knowing that James Bond was still popular. And there was also the newer film series known as Jason Bourne. By this point in time was when a couple of films had come out, and there was even supposed to be more films on the way. Anyways, though, in terms of how the spy stuff works, Mater actually gets hauled into this. That's technically one of the only reasons why these events connect with each other. How Mater and Lightning get to race around the world while Mater gets to help race against time in terms of a supposed mission. Well, it's quite simple, really. You have Finn McMissile, as well as a spy in training, known as Holly Shiftwell. They're played by the likes of Michael Caine and Emily Mortimer. But by all means, these were two spies that, along with Mater's help, would actually allow for the defeat of a certain group, a syndicate of some sort, basically led by the one and only Sir Miles Axelrod. Eddie Izzard, of course, portrays the man in question. But with all the stuff that has come around, along with other characters that seem to come around in terms of, well, the spy stuff, yeah, like I said, there just isn't nothing that special that one could probably connect to. I certainly liked the movie for what it was, but unlike what we got with the first movie, which truly meant something, shaping a certain narcissistic racer into a kind and helpful person, he basically got himself a fresh new pit crew, a lot of positive reinforcement about his racing skills, a lot of new training, which allowed him to get the upper hand on the race and stuff. That stuff was just special. Unlike whatever we've seen before when it comes with racing movies, not even the Herbie films, which were another Disney franchise, ever came close to that part. And knowing that only 1 year before Cars came out came Herbie Fully Loaded, which not only meant to act as a reboot, but also a sequel that took place decades after the last film, Herbie Goes Bananas. I mean, there was just a lot you could take away from the reboot alone, but with this being a sequel to Cars, it hardly pertains to any particular continuity that was deemed necessary. I mean, where is the crew that helped Lightning McQueen? Where did the fame of Radiator Springs go? Where did Doc Hudson even wander off to? I mean, these are a lot of questions that unfortunately never truly get answered. But one thing's for certain, no. We at least do get a full-on ending with Francesco being beaten by Lightning McQueen in the race. And also, a time bomb being put into Mater. And while it might seem like it's the end as he gets caught in the crossfire with the race and a lot of people around him, thankfully, the bomb is disarmed. And the professor behind this is put under arrest. These spies done a lot of good business for the country of England and beyond. So, compared to what the first film offered, there wasn't that much I could possibly take away from this. Even if I watched this once again, I probably couldn't have done better justice with this. It's just, like I've said, the sequel hardly had any known continuity that would have been necessary to allow for us to be really focused on what it had to offer in this instance. It just gave us something completely different. Like, I mean, it's probably understandable that Cars 2 could have taken place a while after the events of the first film, but not that much is simply given away in terms of what goes on. There's hardly anything even mentioned about what went on in Radiator Springs prior to Lightning McQueen's race on the California Speedway. And once again, it's different than the first film. And that's probably one of the biggest issues that somehow even I tend to have with this. So maybe in that case, this was an okay film for what it is. It had a good cast, it had some nice storylines, it had a good way to connect two different levels of events with each other, thanks to one major character getting reeled into the action pretty much by accident. But much like with other films though, there's only so much that you could take away from a sequel to Cars. And, well, the scoring for this is only going to be a somewhat meager, yet still positive, 6.3 out of 10.1. Quite a bit of a far cry from what we had gotten in other cases, but it's way behind what the first film's score was overall. And in terms of what Cars 3 could offer, well, tune in on Friday, and you'll see what I have to say about it. Until then, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.
Whatever I want, I usually get, and I'm thinking I want you, but I don't have you yet. I ain't got no tricks to be playing on you.